I'm going to do something that might piss off the manager. I apologize. We're going to do a little dance, okay? A little dance. Is that okay? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Amir Shevat. I'm the battle between you listening to me and going to sleep after lunch. So we're going to do a little dance, but it has value. So some of the stuff that you do as DevOps is to speak and present in your team, right? I don't know if you know, but public speaking is one of the most feared things. It's actually the #1 feared thing in America. People would rather be dead than doing the eulogy. Which is kind of interesting and creepy. But there's a way to fight fear. I've presented in many places in Google and Microsoft, Slack, Twitch, I'll talk about that later. But they all teach you how to present with confidence. And one of the things that they do is that they tell you that it's very physical. So we're going to start with a physical activity. I'm going to show you a thing that was measured to be successful in making your presentation more effective. Okay, so before you come to your presentation, you do this dance. Okay, so I'm going to do the dance, and then you're going to stand up and do the dance with me. Okay, awesome. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. Superhero stand. Okay, cool. Everybody stand up. Nobody's too cool for school. No, come on. Like, everybody's looking at you too. Come on. Okay. Okay. Ready? Now, again, look at each other. This is an awkward moment, right? No, like, everybody's, okay, I'm going to see you dance, but look at your faces after you do this dance, okay? So ready. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, superhero stand. Woo! And now, if you look at each other's faces, you'll see that you're all smiling and happy. So at least you learned one thing about in this presentation, which is, by the way, this has been tested to give you about 25% uplift in scores. So presenters that did this got 25% uplift in scores and events like Google I/O. Okay, so after we're all now refreshed and happy and can tell our spouses that we've done physical work, let's talk about building platforms. So today we're going to talk about building developer platforms and building developer platforms that create hopefully a good developer experience. And how do you improve developer experience, and how do you create a DevOpsLESS platform for developers? So I've been in developer platforms for way too long. I apologize that you have to see two versions of me, and one in real life and one on video. I started at a few startups and then moved to Microsoft, work with developers on SharePoint and WPF, and some of them on Azure in the early days where we had about 15% availability. So some of my friends are still not talking to me about bad decisions that I made them do. Then I moved to New Zealand for 2 years and came back and worked at Google. At Google, I worked at Google here in Israel, and my job was to manage developer relations and work with startups to use the Google technology. So that was fun. After doing that, I created Campus. Do you know Google Campus here? So I created Campus, something that my manager said to me that it's a bad idea, but I'll let you do it as part of your 20%, which is an awesome thing to do with your, do you know what the 20% is? So at Google, if you have an idea, you can spend at least 20% of your time actually doing that idea and not your main job. So it started as a 20% and then blew up. It blew up well enough, so I was asked to move to the States and to run Google startup relations and developer relations scalable programs around the world, globally. And then a small startup reached out to me and said, hey, we're opening a developer platform. Why don't you join us? And I said, okay, that sounds like fun. And we were less than 100 people, and we had 50 developers on our platform. And when I left 2 years later, we had 2,000 people in the company and 250,000 active developers on the platform on a weekly basis. So that was an amazing growth. Now, if you don't know the difference between correlation and causation, you would say that I choose my companies based on the color of their logos. And that is not true, because the next item breaks the pattern. Lastly, before I joined the company that I work for right now, I used to work at Twitch. Do you know what Twitch is? Awesome. Last year I had to explain. This year I don't need to explain. For those of you who didn't say, of course, it's a platform that lets kids play video games and make a lot of money streaming their game. So it's an Amazon company, bought about 3 years ago for $1 billion. $1 billion. And I was the VP of the platform there, working with developers, but now my developers were actually Blizzard and Riot and all the big game developers that wanted to integrate into Twitch. Cool. And because being a VP at Amazon is such a breeze, I also wrote 2 books. One of them is about designing bots, conversational interfaces like Google Home and Slack bots, and also designing web APIs. Awesome. Okay. So today I'm the CPO, I'm the product officer and co-founder of Reshuffle. Reshuffle is a startup. We're just getting started. Actually, this presentation that I've written on the plane over here is the first time. This is the first time I'm presenting it. So it could be 20 minutes and it could be like an hour and a half, but you'll bear with me, right? Okay, awesome. And our mission is to make developers' life more productive and creative, which is basically what DevOps means if you think about it in a fundamental way. How can we make better software? And this is, I know this is controversial and everybody has their own opinion about what DevOps means, but I've taken the Wikipedia definition, so please don't shoot me. I think for me, developer experience in DevOps means the set of tools, services, and cultural changes that we want to do in order to make developers more productive and creative, and to enable better software for our customers that is in better quality and delivered faster. Does that make sense, more or less? You agree with that? Perfect. So what does less mean? What does DevOps less mean? I think that, and this is, I think, fundamental to my talk, is that DevOps needs to be a transparent technology. DevOps will be successful when you don't know that you have DevOps, like electricity, like AI. You're not going to say, I have a shopping cart that is so awesome because it's driven by AI. You would say, I have a shopping cart that always know what I want to buy, right? So there's a certain set of technologies that are really, really good when you don't hear about them. When they're a transparent part, just like electricity, just like water, I think DevOps falls under that category. So for me, DevOps less means that the developer doesn't need to know anything about the ops that is happening. And if we can make it as transparent as possible, they will have a better experience and they will be able to iterate really rapidly. So this is summarizing the point that I just made, so you can look at it or we can move on. But again, another thing to note is that it's not just for developers, it's also for PMs. And I'm starting to see this in the Silicon Valley. There's a lot of different ops that are happening. There's HR ops and there's biz ops. There's more and more of the organization that is actually moving into benefiting from ops. Yay! Awesome. So this was the first iteration that we did for our startup. The startup at the time was called Binaris. I don't know if some of you know it. But our thesis was, we're going to give developers compute, and we're going to change the way they program, and we're going to make it totally scalable and manageable, and we're going to take care of all the load. We wrote the serverless, all of you know what serverless is? Awesome. For those of you who don't know, it's like Lambda or Google Functions. You write the code in a certain way, and it's totally scalable and manageable. So we created that for mission-critical workloads. We said we're going to give developers functions that they could use to build mission-critical applications. Developers, so this is the system that we designed. At the core of it was a runtime that was fully managed. You would upload a function in either Python or Node, and we gave you auto-scaling, deployment tools. You had to adhere to a function programming model. And we gave you all the monitoring and system. So we woke up in the middle of the night if the system didn't work. And we managed scale at a very high end. Fully managed, scale and failover, and seamless functions were the features that we gave to developers. We didn't get all that good of adoption or feedback. And this is our core learning from that, from trying to build that. Most workloads require more than compute. Developers were saying, yeah, compute is awesome, but I need to say to the database, or I need to do X or Y. And I always come back to using my DevOps full, my managed system, on AWS or Google or Microsoft or any other. So they always came back to like, I'm missing this feature. The other thing that we learned is that infinitely scalable systems, nobody care about that, or very few people care about infinitely scalable systems. At Twitch, I managed a gateway that had 16 billion hits a day. That was close to infinitely scalable, but there may be 5 or 6 companies in the world that actually have the need for infinite scalability. Most workloads do not require that. It's hard to write functions. I don't know how many of you have actual experience with managed functions, with Lambda or Google functions. They're good for very specific use cases. Use cases like ETLs, use cases like a single endpoint that you need to expose. They're not good for, or they're harder when you want to build fully managed application. Because you need to change the way you program, and you need to change the way you think about software. So developers told us, hey, we don't really want to change the way we code. And migrating is a nightmare. So this is, I think 4 is true for everything. Migration is a bigger nightmare than ops. Every time you need to migrate an application from one technology to the other, think again, please. At Twitch, I spent about 16 years of engineering, moving from Ruby on Rails to Go. We had to do it, but at the end of the day, it was extremely expensive experience. It's hard to get started with functions, and anyway, I think serverless has became a very red ocean. Okay, so we decided to do more for developers. And now we said, okay, we're going to change the programming model to adhere to what developers are actually using today, which is usually React in the front end and Express in the back end. So we'll give them a fully managed system that will let them deploy, and instead of deploying functions, they're now going to deploy apps. And the biggest thing that developers told us that they need, we're going to actually deliver on that, which is a database accompanied with their runtime. So now you have a web portal, and I'll show you it to you in a couple of minutes, and you actually deploy apps instead of functions. So it's easy to migrate your application into this DevOpsLESS platform. So now we're providing a React front end, and we did some sort of magic where from your React, you call functions in the back end, and you call them as if they're local functions, as if they're JavaScript functions. And we use Babel so when you deploy, we take those functions and turn them from memory calls to RPC. So you feel like you're coding locally, but you're actually calling remote functions. And that was something that developers really, really liked. So you can actually extend your React project and provide seamless backend with no deployment. And then there's reshuffled database, which is we took a Mongo-like approach Actually, in the backend, it's Postgres, but we can replace it with any database. But that was the approach. And now we provided you could write your own code or migrate old code. You can just use the Reshuffle SDK to get all these benefits. So now, I haven't sacrificed any goat to the demo gods, and this is, if you've done a few presentations, you know how dangerous what I'm going to do now is. So it's not actually demo, it's live demo. So let's start with that. Heart attack coming soon to a theater near you. So what I want to show you is how do you, what I think is DevOpsLESS experience. So I'm an engineer, and my manager has tasked me to create a Slack integration. All of you, how many of you use Slack? Awesome, thank you. As a shareholder, I thank you. Awesome. So I don't know how many of you know, but Slack has a platform, and you can actually do cool things like create a slash command. So slash commands are things like do not disturb DND 1 hour. And now nobody is going to bug me on this Slack channel for an hour. By the way, super useful. You can set that automatically at night. There's a lot of things that you can do with slash commands. So my manager has tasked me to create a slash command that we use at Slack all the time called the go slash command. It is basically, I want to, when I type /go with a name, I want to get back a URL. So it's basically like a mini wiki inside Slack. Does that make sense? So you put in a name, and you get a link to that document. So let's do that. So I'll go here, and this is Reshuffle. I search for Slack. I go into one of the templates. So now I have a template for Slack integration, right? So that's one of the key thing here is that it's very, very easy to start using the code from a template that actually works. Let's show you how it works. So I'll hit remix, and within 6 seconds, hopefully, it will provision a database, a backend, a front end, and everything I need to have my own environment for my app, for my Slack integration. So here I'll click on that, and it also creates like a nice URL for me. It's actually not nice, but it's fun. We chose fun names for the URLs. And it's basically a set of links. So let's do this. Let's do DevOps and take the link from DevOpsDays. So I'm going to add a short link and a URL, and it added it to it. So if I click on DevOps, it will take me to DevOpsDays.org. So as you can see, I immediately get a front end in React that is connected to a database, to a persistent storage, automatically provisioned. But now let's test it. So what it does, it gives you an instruction about how to connect this into the Slack API. So it gives you a URL that I'm going to copy. And I'm going to go to the Slack API, create an app. Let's call it Go. And we'll install it on my environment. Ooh, something gone wrong. Oh my God, in my old platform. Let's do it again. Go. Awesome. And now we'll go and create a slash command. Create a new command. We'll call it go. We'll put the URL, and then we'll say short link, and we'll save. And now I'll just go ahead and install the app that I just created. And now I can go to my Slack. And hopefully if I do go DevOps, it will give me the link. So automatically, And if you talk to enterprise developers, doing this, provisioning a backend, setting up the SSL because Slack required SSL, setting up all the tokens and all of that, and setting up the database, that's a big pain. So we removed all that pain and gave you a 3-minute experience from starting the I want to build something to actually being able to launch in production in the cloud. So that I think is pretty awesome. But now I need to change it. Now I need to actually code. So let's go back here. And we give you the ability to actually download it here. So I'm going to go here. And I go into my coding section, and I do a mk dir test 21, and I'll cd to test 21, and I'll run the npx command to download the app. And now this is basically a speed test for our network. Does anyone know what an NPX is? NPX is like NPM for non-NPM scripts. It's pretty awesome if you want to build a set of solutions that are based on top of the NPM infrastructure. So you should definitely check it out. Okay, so now it's on my computer. And I can go to my favorite tool, go here, and now we'll change the backend. And instead of, we'll go to the go command. Sorry, I'm going to make this bigger. Okay. And here we're going to add, actually, here we pick from the database. We pick the link that you've said. We look at if it's available. And if not, we're sending no short links. And now I can go and do this. Here is the link. Okay. Sorry, link, and I'll take this, and I'll do properly. Hopefully I don't have any bugs. And now I can easily go back to my code. I'll change into Slack URL shortener, and now I can npx reshuffle deploy. And this, if internet permits, automatically deploys this to your instance in the cloud that is already configured. If I had a little bit more time, I could show you that you can actually run it locally, and it gives you a local emulation of the database and other capabilities. Yay. Okay. While we're waiting for the script, I'll continue with my presentation because uploads seem to be a problem here, but we'll go back there. So we showed this to developers and we got a lot of feedback. Feedback was, hey, we really like this, but we want more. Developers wanted storage. Developers wanted capabilities like queuing. Developer wanted integration with CI/CD. There were a lot of requirements, and we're working on building them. So one of my learnings is that building a platform for developers is very hard. I used to have hair before I started it, but what am I going to do? I'm a one-trick pony, so I know how to do one thing. Also, managing managed systems. Developers thought that they're going to lose control. One of the biggest requests that we didn't think about, and quite stupidly didn't think about, and we had to develop really rapidly, is the ability to manage the database. So we create a database for you very simply, but you want to manage it. You want to create an interface that lets you delete all the keys if you, or all the rows if you have some of the problems, and you want to upload and export the database. So all of these were requirements that developers really wanted us to build. And the other thing is that developers told us, yeah, React is really awesome, but we're actually thinking about Vue right now. So if you're thinking about DevOps, try not to be technology specific. I really like how GitHub is doing that, because I don't know if React will be successful next year, or if Go will be successful next year. I know that all my code will be stored on GitHub. right? GitHub is a really good example of a platform that is very agnostic to the technology that you're using. Again, integration with CI/CD is still one of the most requested features. And internal use cases are more painful. So developers told us, hey, when we're building to our mission critical site, we already have our CI/CD integrated. We already have our all of our ops ready. But for internal use cases, we really need to use your system. Which was surprising for us because we built for infinitely scalable system, but what developers actually wanted is to use us for internal workflows. Okay, so let's go back and see if the deployment if the up speed has done. Yeah, okay. So now it redeployed, and we can go and check it out. And I will do a go DevOps. Oh, yeah, thank you, debugging me as you go. Sorry? Support, yes. And here you go. The update has been made. Awesome. For those of you who don't know, this is the demo dance. Okay. So this is what we're working on right now. Again, we're a startup. We're still working for product market fit. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. But this is our biggest challenge. This is how can we give developers the entire DevOpsLESS experience? How can you start from actually coding simple applications to coding complex applications? How do you plug in to current DevOps best practices that I have right now, like connecting to CI/CD? And as you can see, now developers don't want to publish an app or deploy an app like I showed you. They want to push into Git. And they want all their tools and services to ensure quality to be plugged into the system. And so we're adding a database, and we're adding storage, and we're adding Git integration, and plugging in into to your DNS, so that if you don't want to use fluffy unicorn.reshuffle.app, you can always use your own domain. So we already launched that. But basically, we're building the platform that will enable developers to create these type of experiences and more, one feature at a time. Okay, and this is how the system looks right now. We're still supporting React. We're adding Vue and Pure Express and Handlebar and all the new technologies. There's something called Sven. I don't know if you've played with it, but it's fun. Yeah, pretty awesome. And there's Reshuffle Backend is still there. Storage. We're now providing more and more capabilities. Let's peek into the future. We never wanted to be, and we don't want to be, a hosting platform. I've worked at Azure, and I worked at Google Cloud, and I worked at AWS. I love those guys. It's a very hard business. I don't want to compete with them. I want to be the open source alternative for that. So we're creating a platform, an open source platform, and we're going to release the runtime to enable you to run reshuffle apps on your cloud and even on your own premise, on your own computers. So we're open sourcing the runtime so that when you can deploy into any destination. And then we're thinking about a scriptable. What does DevOps really mean for internal application? And we're thinking about like a scriptable language where you can map all the objects in your organization. You have your Jira, and you have your Asana, and you have your Slack, and you have your Salesforce. What is the scripting language that connects all these dots? How can we create something that is even more seamless for development? So I'll show you a screenshot. It's still work in progress. And we want to enable citizen developers. We want to enable someone who just knows how to script to be able to do awesome code inside their organization. This is a screenshot. Mocks I'd helped design, so I apologize for the look and feel. It's going to look much, much nicer when someone with design skills are going to see it. But the key here is that what if you had all your business objects? And what if you can say, hey, I want to start, and this is actually a working prototype internally. what you can say is like, hey, I want to follow everybody that's tweeting about my company on Twitter. And if somebody tweets, I want to run it through a sentiment analysis. And if it's too bad, I want to send it to my support team so that they can immediately interact with it. And I don't want to set up a server and a database and connect to all these APIs. I just want a simple script that gives me all my business objects and gives me the ability to run. So this is something that we're thinking about approaching in next year. And if you're interested in this, we were definitely looking for people to tell us if something sucks or doesn't. To conclude, DevOps is hard. All of you are amazing people who are doing a lot of hard work, and we're all here to make developers' life easier, more simpler, more productive. DevOps needs to be transparent. It also needs to be complete. We tried to create a DevOps solution for a sliver of the solution of the developers, and they rejected the solution. So when you think about your DevOps or your own developers, think about how do you solve for an entire life cycle. From the minute I open a project, all the way to not waking up at night when there's a problem, right? How can you enable your developers to go through the full cycle of the development experience and have a delightful experience and having a quality product? And DevOpsLESS platforms are definitely coming. There's a lot, if you follow, I know in Israel it's not popular to follow Twitter, but if you do follow Twitter, you'll see that other than the Trump impeachment, everybody in tech is talking about codeless and no-code platforms. And the idea here is that how can we enable citizen developers who are not computer science engineers or do not feel very comfortable with setting out EC2s or instances of Kubernetes, which we, of course, love to do. And they want to do that and create, but still need to do things that are very, very important. So how do we enable them to do things with less code or less configuration? So it's definitely coming. Anything from Glitch, from the guys from Stack Overflow, to Koji, which is for apps. There's more and more awesome platforms that give you low code and low management. There's always a cost with these things, but the movement is definitely coming. Okay, so if you want to tell us how much we suck, please email me, and I'll get you into betas of our product, or like work with you on your own workflow or app that you want to build. This is not a sales. This is me asking for you to give me, hey, it would be awesome if you could do this, or it really sucks when I do that. If there's one thing I've learned from Amazon, is be customer obsessed. Like I'm not married to my roadmap, I'm married to your needs. So come and tell me what you need. Cool, and this is my email. Those of you on the internet, please don't spam me. And thank you, toda rabba. And now I can take questions, or we can stand here for 3 minutes very awkwardly.
There's no ending dance.
Oh, ending dance. Oh, we can do an ending dance. I can give you tips for how to do good presentations, if you like. So if you're asking a question in the audience, and they're all shy, not like Israelis, but shy, there's a trick to get people to answer. And the trick is to raise your hand. How many people here have installed Kubernetes? And people, yeah, I see him raising my hand. This has all been tested and vetted. I think McDonald's showed that they've had a 5% improve when they told their people to say, "Do you want to supersize?" So if you want someone to do something, raise your hand. Any more questions? Sorry? Why you want to supersize? No, I've done paleo. I'm not supersizing anything. Okay, last tip before I finish my presentation is that, and this is a dirty, cheap trick. If you want people to, if you want to get better results in presentations, you have to clap to your audience. So the way it's going to work is I'm going to say, hey, you've been awesome. Thank you very much, okay? Okay, you've been awesome. Thank you very much.